What is up, harvesters? Welcome to Hobby Harvest. My name is Ken. So today I want to talk to you guys about 5 ways that you can trick a buck's nose. Now, I'm going to be right up front with you. You can't actually trick a buck's nose, but I'm going to give you 5 ways that you can prevent your scent from hitting his nose in the first place, and that is how you truly trick a buck's nose. So number 1 is something that I've been doing forever. My grandpa did it. My great grandpa did it. This is something that you see very often, and that is to hang your clothes outside before you hunt. We all know that we shouldn't be putting our hunting clothes in the washing machine with fragrant detergents or softeners or whatever and getting all of that human stink scent on them. But what we should be doing is hanging them outside so that you're really getting them air washed and getting all of that human stink off of them and just making them smell a lot more like natural outdoor scent. With that is we need to do that not just with our hunting coats and our pants, but also our footwear. I think a part of this that is overlooked a lot is your footwear. So I always make sure that my hunter accesses are completely free of grass or sticks or anything, so I'm not actually rubbing up against anything and putting that physical scent in the woods, but our boots are still touching the ground. So our boots are the thing we really need to worry about with our scent, because that's the thing that's actually putting that physical scent out in the woods. It's not just like lofting off of us and blowing off into the woods. So that scent signature is actually going to stick around a lot longer. So make sure you're putting those boots outside as well, but also be very conscious. And this is something where I probably need to take my own advice. You know, you come home from hunting, don't walk in the house with those boots on. You go in and you walk on your kitchen floor or whatever, it stinks like whatever cleaning supplies, or maybe you made bacon, now you got bacon grease on your boots. You don't want that human stink on your boots. So just keep those hunting clothes outside somewhere where you can control the scent on them a lot more. And then before you go hunting, just make sure you let them sit outside for a while to get as human scent free as you can before you're going to be sitting in the woods with those on. That really reduces your scent signature in the woods. Now, yes, you, the human, is still wearing those clothes when you're in the woods, so this isn't 100% effective. Obviously, you are still going to be very stinky in the woods. A human scent is very unnatural in the woods, and that's what deer pick up on, but at least your clothes aren't also contributing to that stink in the woods. So that brings me to number 2, and this is something that I guess a lot of guys know as well, and that is to hunt the wind. But not just the wind when you're on stand. You need to be conscious of the wind direction when you're accessing your stand and when you're exiting it as well. So you don't want to enter in through, say, a field edge and the wind is just painting right off of that field edge into the woods where the deer are bedded down as you access around into your stand location. Even if once you get into that stand location, the wind is blowing off of you out into that open field. So just be very conscious of where that wind is blowing, and know that just because the wind's blowing a certain direction in one area doesn't mean it's blowing that direction everywhere. So I often like to take anything like, I take like milkweed or any little seeds that'll like float in the wind. I take those and put them in my pocket, and you can like just kind of drop 1 or 2 of them and you can see where the wind leaves your stand. But if you're, say, sitting like on a field edge, you might notice that the wind's blowing like out of the woods into the field, but then once it gets into the field, it might actually change direction, blow another way. So if you can like take something like that and watch it, and you can see what the wind's doing in your immediate area, that helps a lot. So that brings me to number 3, and this could kind of be included with the previous one, and that is hunting your thermals. So just because the wind is blowing in a direction does not mean that that scent is going in a straight line that way. So thermals, when it warms up in the morning, those thermals are going up. So it's carrying that scent up in the direction that the wind is blowing. But in the afternoon, it's cooling down and those thermals are coming down. So even though the wind is blowing that direction, the thermals are now coming down and falling to the forest floor wherever you're hunting. So that's something to keep in mind. So for example, I've shot quite a few bucks in the morning that came in right where my wind was blowing. but I have one stand in particular that I'm thinking about in northwestern Wisconsin that I have the stand set up on top of like a ridge. So then it itself is like, I think only like maybe 8 or 10 feet off the ground, which makes it so that I'm like the highest thing in the immediate area. So in the morning when the thermals are going up, nothing in any direction all the way around me has a chance of smelling me because my thermals are just being carried up away from them. And I've actually had bucks walk in right where my scent was blowing, but my scent by the time it got to them was well over their head and they couldn't smell me. So just keep those thermals in mind. That's something that is going to be very specific to your area, how much topography you have, where you're set up. Just know that like your wind is going in that direction, but then also up or down depending on if it's warming up or cooling down, which normally in the morning it's warming up, in the afternoon it's cooling down. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So that brings me to number 4, and number 4 is just minimizing your time in the woods. So the more time you're in the woods, the more scent you're leaving there. You can't avoid that. There's no fancy products you can buy. There's no cover scents you can buy. You know, those are all just there to steal your money out of your wallet and make you think that it's doing something. If a deer smells you, a deer smells you. There's no product you can buy to eliminate your scent or cover it. You have to use these tips to hide that scent. And so by minimizing your time in the woods, you're putting less scent out there. So this means only hunting those high priority days. You know, hunt after a cold front comes through, hunt after a big weather pattern or something, a lot of precipitation. Those are really good days to hunt. Don't sit every day. Don't sit all day every day. Those are just ways that you're going to paint scent all over your woods, and you're not going to have a good season if you do that. Now, during the rut, yeah, all day sits are great because the rut is so inconsistently consistent that that time of year a buck can run through it any minute of any day, and that's just how that is. But that is a very small percentage of the overall season. So we don't want to be sitting all day during the rest of the season, and just make sure we're hunting those high priority days. But also we can use things like cell cams. So don't go out and check your cams all the time if you don't have cell cams. And if you do have cell cams, well, you can check them just on your phone then. So that's a way that you can also minimize your time in the woods. And so that brings me to number 5. And I think number 5 is probably the most effective, and it's also one I don't hear a lot of guys talk about. So a few years ago, I'm trying to think, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago at this point, I built myself a really nice box blind on my northwestern Wisconsin property. And so what it is it's actually a 4-foot by 8-foot blind that has windows, and they're not clear windows, they're just plywood flaps that open and close. And so the reason why I did that is depending on which way the wind is coming from, I can close one of the flaps or 2 of the flaps. And what that allows me to do is control the wind as it blows through the blind. So what you can do with a closed blind, and there's a lot of expensive ones out there that you guys can buy, but it is a lot cheaper to build your own even with the price of lumber right now. But if you can build yourself an enclosed blind that completely keeps you from having the wind blow across you and blow out into the woods, you're going to minimize your scent a lot. Now, if you could have, say, clear windows and completely just close them all up so you're completely enclosed in there, and then you just open up that window when it's time to take your shot, that's probably the best. But if you can at least like close off 1 or 2 of the sides depending on which way the wind's going, and just tuck yourself sort of into that corner of the blind so that the wind's not just constantly blowing across you, grabbing scent off of you and throwing it out into the woods, that is a amazing way for you to reduce your scent in the woods. And so then when I built my blind for my southeastern Wisconsin property, I built that a couple years ago now, I kind of learned from the one up there. And so the one down in southeastern Wisconsin, it only even has a window on one side because I tucked it into a tree line. And then you guys have seen how awesome that hunter access is on that blind location. But that makes it so that the deer won't ever walk behind me. So I am completely enclosed on 3 sides in that blind with just the window in the front. And that makes it that I can actually hunt that in a bad wind because the wind isn't even touching me as it blows wherever it's blowing. So when I'm sitting in there, the only place for my scent to go is if it just sort of permeates or lofts out in front of me. And if it's doing that, that deer is well within my lethal range anyway. So by the time it's going to smell me there, it's way too late anyway. So that number 5, like I said, that's not something I hear a whole lot of guys talk about, but that is the best way that I have come up with to date on how to hide your scent in the woods, and that is to be in an enclosed blind and keep it closed up, or keep as many sides of it closed up, and then tuck yourself in where there isn't a whole lot of air movement, because then that air isn't grabbing and throwing your scent out into the woods as much as if you were just in, like, say, a tree stand or a climber or something, and you're just completely exposed to the elements and it's just grabbing scent off of you and throwing it all over the woods. So I hope this helps. I hope you guys got some value out of this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.